today. Item 4.1 is a report on the East County Advanced Water Purification Program, and I'll ask staff to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Staff has been working with several regional partners to explore the viability of an advanced water purification program for East County communities. Specifically, the city has been working with Padre Dam, Helix Water, and the County of San Diego Sanitation District, or Department. If implemented, this program would divert most of the city's wastewater from going to the city of San Diego to Padre Dam to be treated at that location. Yasmin Arellano, our Deputy Director of Public Works, and our city engineer will provide a brief update about the findings of where we are to date with our discussions with our partners. She's also going to present an opportunity for us to continue to explore this viability. Then she'll turn the time back to me for a conclusion.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Council members. Thank you for the opportunity. We're here today to present you with viable options for the treatment of our wastewater. The city currently contracts with the City of San Diego as a member agency of the Metro JPA for the treatment of our wastewater at their facilities. Based on dynamic project cost information within the last couple of years, as a result of having to offload the Point Loma wastewater treatment facility to comply with federal mandates, the city has been considering participation in an East County alternative where we would send most of our wastewater flows to Padre Dam Municipal Water District for treatment at their advanced water purification facilities, also known as the AWP. The orange line signifies in this graph how historically our wastewater treatment costs have slowly increased over the years. But we're beginning to see in the blue line how this cost will have a steep increase in the next 25 years. Based on information provided by Padre Dam staff, it appears that in the green line, it appears that we have less of an impact to our ratepayers if we were to follow what the AWP is projected. As you may recall, in September of 2014, the city agreed to participate in a study with Padre Dam, County of San Diego, and Helix Water District by contributing $50,000 to determine if there was value in further exploring the advanced water purification project. In 2017, we also executed an MOU with these agencies to further explore and determine the feasibility of the AWP, with our contribution being at $76,000. The project was determined as being feasible, and we're here today to request participation in the next steps. Provided with this cost that show, we're here today to request participation in the next step based on provided project information that show benefit to our ratepayers in the future. Our contribution to the next phase is $500,000 to cover preliminary engineering, environmental studies, permitting, and the development of agreement terms in the months to follow.
So in conclusion, we're at a point where we think right now the numbers look viable enough that we should continue to explore this. I mean, these are preliminary numbers. Padre Dam has relied on some heavy-hitting consulting firms to help vet these numbers. We are challenged in that we don't have wonderful numbers from the City of San Diego. They don't forecast beyond 5 years. So we're taking their current 5-year projection and forecasting what the debt service for these pure water programs are going to be. San Diego is going to be having actually 2 different pure water programs that we'll be having to finance through our participation in Metro. So there's some value in thinking about keeping it smaller with just us, and we can have an opportunity to control our costs a little bit more. Staff would recommend that the City Council adopt the resolution before you. It does allow the city manager to enter into the first amendment to the MOU that we have with Padre Dam. As Ms. Arellano indicated, that it does include a $500,000 contribution. That's a lot of money. The city the County of San Diego and Helix Water District have already committed that funding that would be paid out over a period of time as these studies go on. But ultimately, about a year from now, we would have a definitive yes or no, this project is viable, this project's not viable. But it's an investment that staff's recommending we take in exploring not only cheaper way to treat our water, our sewage, but also to create a potential water source in the future. Alan Carlisle, the CEO and general manager of Padre Dam, is here as well. But staff or he can answer questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. First, let me see if the council has any questions of you. Bob?
Do you happen to know what the overall cost would be to the city of El Cajon over what period of time to do this? Do you have any idea, or would that be Padre Dam's answer?
So as you remember, right now, the city pays Metro, for example.
Right.
But we really collect it from the ratepayers.
Exactly.
And so it's passing through, but we're the ones that ultimately pay that bill. And so if we don't increase our costs to match Metro's costs, it comes out of our general fund. We end up subsidizing. So that's one of the reasons why we're exploring it. If we can go back to one of those graphs, if you can see this graph, the green line is the projected cost that our ratepayers or that the city will be paying over the period of time out 25 years if we were to go with the Padre Dam experiment. What this doesn't include is we do have some debt with Metro that is built into those Metro costs. So somehow that's going to be figured out during this next year period, what that debt looks like and how that would be configured. Those lines may end up being a lot closer in the end, but we do think that we can get a little bit more control over costs over time by participating with Padre Dam.
Well, how much more over the $500,000 do you think it'll take to get this system up and running? Or is there any projection on that?
Mr. Carlisle actually has some
Mr.
early
Carlisle, come on.
estimates. It's not, to build the system would be built through bond financing and some grants, but Padre Dam can answer that.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Welcome.
Council. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the concept currently, we believe that a JPA format is probably the most advantageous to procure this type of project. Under that construct, the JPA would carry the debt burden for the project, so it wouldn't fall on our individual balance sheets. I don't know if that answers your question.
But the ratepayers are the ones that are going to be paying it through the wastewater costs that they pay.
That is correct.
Is there any idea what the ultimate cost of setting the system in place?
Yes, we have projections in the neighborhood of $400 million for the entire build-out of both the wastewater treatment side and the advanced water purification side. So that's the water and the wastewater side.
Right. So that would be bonded, and each city would, or water district would be paying their percentage of whatever that happened to be.
Well, again, a joint powers authority would be the mechanism that we would propose, and under that scenario, the JPA would carry the bonds, and they would be backed by service agreements with each of the agencies. So the ratepayers from each of the agencies would be paying back that debt service. And under our projections and our analysis so far, we will be at or below the cost that we would normally pay to Metro, with more local control and the opportunity to create a water supply that equals about 30% of East County's needs.
Now, the overall cost would be paid by by bonding, but do we have any idea what the annual cost would be? And is there any help from the state of California for? I know they fund a lot of different things in different ways, and you never know. You got to look under the carpet to find out what they are. But sometimes there's grants out there and things like that. We
are looking under every carpet and every rock and stone that we can find. And we have secured several grants in the neighborhood of about $20 million so far.
Good.
We have, through the state revolving fund, a low-interest loan at 1.7% for $100 million.
Good.
And we continue to pursue programs like Title 16, which we are eligible for, and we hope to get about $15 million from that federal program as well. So we are aggressively seeking, as part of the process for this next year of work, is seeking out those funding opportunities
Good.
as part of the financial planning.
Now, I know there's a lot of places upstream on the Colorado River that don't have an ocean to dump it into, and they're obviously cleaning up their water and dumping it back into the Colorado River. Is there any comparison to what they have paid or are paying to process their water?
So yes, and you know, we compare cost of service primarily in the San Diego region. Those that are discharging along the Colorado River, which is in the neighborhood of about 120 different discharge permits. Now that story alone tells our region that we're already drinking recycled water.
I understand.
And that water isn't treated to the advanced level that we're talking about here in our program. Our program will take this water through 4 additional treatment processes. It will be blended with water at Lake Jennings through a surface water augmentation regulations that the state of California just put out last month, and then treated once again through the Levy treatment plant. So we're essentially creating a very highly clarified and cleaned, pure or source water rather than using the water from the Colorado River.
Now, I understand that Orange County has also been doing this for a number of years, and do you have any idea what it costs for them to set up their system?
Yeah, so they are at 100 million gallons a day of recycled water, where our project is 15 million gallons in comparison. So they're at 100 million gallons right now. They're going to 130 million gallons here soon. And they've been in business for about 7 years, and they've been working under not surface water augmentation, but groundwater replenishment. Yeah. And those regulations have been out for several years. They were the first to come out. So cities like Anaheim are extracting water from the aquifer that Orange County is replenishing and using that for their drinking water.
And I remember there was a thing out towards El Monte Park that a number of years ago they were going to use the same idea for that. Is there any idea of possibly using that as an opportunity? Yeah,
that was explored by Helix Water District, and it was determined that it wasn't feasible for a variety of reasons. Cultural resources, issues with land use, and other things that rendered that project unsuitable.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm having just a little bit of trouble reading your graph here where it says AWB project and you go straight down. What year is that? What year does that correspond to?
2029? 45, way at the very end.
Well, actually just where the dot is, where it goes AWP project, if you go 2038. Okay. So it seems to me, looking at this graph, there's a potential savings of about $10 million a year to the city in 2038, and that this city could end up being pretty thirsty during that time. And I like the idea of getting 30% of our water being reclaimed, so we're not held hostage by Metropolitan Water District. So it seems to me this has a lot of positive aspects to it. And again, local control is really important. And in fact, my experience with Santee Lakes go back to 1959. Was a little kid to Santee, and I was going around Sycamore Canyon, and I remember them filling up the lakes. And in my time in public office, Padre Dam has appeared to be extremely efficient and responsible players in the water business. So this looks like a pretty good idea to me. We could for several reasons. One, we could save a lot of money. It might take 20 years, but that 20 years goes by pretty fast. And two is we'll have a guaranteed source of water. So I think this looks pretty good. Thank you for bringing this to us.
Ben?
I want to start off by saying that I like it a lot, the idea. I look at this and I treat it like a business proposal, one of many companies, let's say, that I've invested in personally when they come to me with what it appears to be like this, a proof of concept. I'm curious, how much money, I already know the answer, but I want it said. How much money has La Mesa given
So now,
or will want to give?
so the city of La Mesa isn't a partner in this. The county of San Diego.
No, I know. So none?
Correct. That is correct.
And Lemon Grove?
Zero, yeah.
So, and I want to say this again, I do like the idea a lot, but I play on this team, right? So I play in El Cajon, on the El Cajon side. So I'm looking for, and I'm looking at this like as if I was an investor, investing in a company like I've done before. So, and I would need to look at it like I need to wet my beak, no pun intended, because we're dealing with water. But so I almost want to say that you have to know what that price per gallon would be once we achieve whatever it is. Even in your proof of concept stage, you have to know what that is. And I would say that because we're going to invest, obviously, more than this initial these projections, because the prices are going to go up, and I've been around the block too many times before to know that they're going to be, you're going to come back and ask for more money, which is not a problem. But I want to know that we're going to get the price per gallon at like 1% on top of what you're going to get it for. So whatever Padre is going to get it for, I want to fight for this city to get it for a 1% higher. Because if we're going to be an investor, obviously a big chunk, and there's a reason why you're here, and I'm saying this to you because you're smarter than me, you know, and I know you know what I mean. So I just want to say that this project is great, but I also want to treat it like it was an investment, and I want to get preferred stock. You know, I want to know what the price per gallon is going to be for you, and I want to know that we want to talk about fixing that price per gallon for what it is going to be for us. 2038 sounds great, but people who are paycheck to paycheck or watching their sewer rates go up, they're looking at that 2038 going like, I don't really care. I know that they should, and I know that we have to strategize long term, but so that's the way I'm looking at it. And again, I want to reiterate, it's a good project, but I do want to get a really, really good deal.
And I think the benefit that we have in the way that we're approaching this project in terms of partnerships with the four of us, Helix Water District, Padre, the County of San Diego, and you good folks. We're partners in this, and we provide wastewater services at Padre, and we want the best price for our customers, just like the City of El Cajon and just like the County of San Diego. On the water side, same thing. We provide a water service. We want the best price that we can provide to our customers, and so does Helix. So we're all bargaining, and we're all fighting for the same thing, and that is to provide the most reliable service to our customers at the lowest possible price that we can.
What is the price what's the price going to be per? Is it cubic? Yeah. What are you guys? What are you guys using?
We use an acre foot price.
Okay. Yeah. So what is that price going to be now, and as opposed to when this is all said and done? After everything, because I know in the proof of concept you have to have some sort of algorithm to figure out.
I can give you a range.
Yeah.
And we're shooting for this target. The water that we pay for, Padre Dam pays to import from Metropolitan and the Colorado River. Is $1,700 to $1,800 an acre foot. This water is going to be around $2,000, a little bit higher than $2,000. So that's more expensive. Now, what we're paying for is reliability. What we're paying for is local control. And what we don't know is what that $1,700 that we're paying for now is going to go to. As I was sitting here, I got a text email message from the County Water Authority that said that Metropolitan just voted 5 minutes ago on the Twin Tunnels and contributing almost $11 million of Southern California taxpayer money towards that effort. Now that $11 million is going to get translated into water costs that we're paying for down here. So that $1,700 may have gone up to $1,800 while we were sitting here in this audience. We don't know, but I do know one thing. I do know that imported water prices are continuing to rise. They're going to go up. I know that the imported water comes from hundreds of miles away on systems that were built in the early 1900s. This water will be locally controlled. It will travel 10 miles versus 600 to get to our customers. And from that concept, that is why we began pursuing this project so aggressively back in 2014.
Sorry, just one more thing really quick. So in this, and maybe I should ask Graham or something, in this tentative, I guess, or this memorandum of understanding, was it ever discussed as far as what the price would be? I know, and if you're thinking that it's early, I mean, not really, because there's $500,000 that's going to be dished.
Certainly. The analysis that we've seen so far has taken San Diego County Water Authority, and they actually project out rates. And so those rates are sort of a known projection. So those rates are known. We have them in a database. Padre Dam, through their analysis, has done the same. And that's what Mr. Carlisle is talking about, that delta between 17 and 18 million, or thousand, versus 20,000. So we know that there's a difference, there's a more expensive water. Because we don't provide our own water, Helix does, we're really focused on the sewer side. However, because we know that our ratepayers are also water payers, we kind of have to look at both of those rates, because perhaps water is a little bit more expensive, but if water's more expensive only because sewer rates are much lower, then ultimately it's a better deal. One of the things that we'll be doing in this next round is talking about governance and talking about how to transfer some of our risk, because to be a partner, if staff were to recommend that we move forward with a JPA or some sort of governance, a partnership, we're taking on risk. And so there needs to be a reward with that as well. And that will be one of the things that we'll be negotiating. We've made it very clear to the other parties as well that we expect to have some, since we have skin in the game, we expect to get some benefits. And so some of the things that you've brought up today are things that we've already been talking about.
But they would follow this disbursement of 500,000, right? So they would be after.
That is correct. That is correct. And ultimately, if Helix Water District, who's going to be the main purchaser of this water, says this is too expensive, then this project does not move forward, because we have to have a customer. We have to have someone that's going to purchase the water besides Padre Dam, who will be using the water as well. We have to have a purchaser.
Yeah, but then so again, it goes back to this like proof of concept that we have to fund this project, right? We're funding this idea, it's a brilliant idea, okay. We're funding this idea, and in order to, and I understand all the risks, just like when I invest in businesses, I understand all that, but we would need to have a prelim of whatever it's going to cost you, we're at 1% higher or whatever it is, because that way, this is a good sell for taxpayers, right? To say,
sure,
we're going to have autonomy over our water regionally, and we're not going to be dependent, and we negotiated, back in 2018, 1% over what they're going to get. What's going to cost them and their end, because I feel like eventually you can look at it where if a different water manager, not as nice as Alan, creates a monopoly if they're going to be the only ones making poo-poo water drinkable, then that becomes an issue. So we have to negotiate tough now.
And that's what this 1 year period is to do. I mean, we've invested, the money we've contributed so far has paid for studies that have gotten us to a point where we feel comfortable enough with the numbers that we think it's viable. But ultimately, until this next phase is done, for the environmental to be done, for us to negotiate long-term contracts with Helix Water District to understand that. Looking at how to generate revenue off of the waste that's produced. These are some big questions that I wouldn't be comfortable to tell you, this council, let's do this today. But I'm comfortable enough to say it's worth $500,000 to explore.
Yeah, but I think he knows the number, right? Like, he's comfortable with a number. You know, like, because you gave me the numbers as far as a cubic yard of water, however much it's going to cost, cubic acre foot.
Acre foot, yeah.
So, if you know what it is, are you comfortable with saying, if somebody was to come up to you, if we didn't have this discussion and say, all right, so we're going to play ball and we're going to go down this journey together, are you comfortable with, this is just pure conversation, a 1% over what it's going to cost you? Okay, because you hesitated,
Yeah, no,
that means
I
we're not
can't.
going. That means he could say 15% or 10%. That's the problem that I don't want to run into. Thank you.
Yeah, I will tell you that what I've been telling our board, and we have about $6 million invested in this so far. So the partners have contributed greatly, and you're considering a major contribution right now that is at risk because we don't know with 100% certainty that this project is going to go forward. We've invested $5 to $6 million because we believe that this project is viable and have put that money at risk for this project. What we've told our board is that it needs to make sense, and so we might get to the end of this year and we might hit a roadblock that we can't overcome. Or we take a detour and take a time out and go a different route. But the fact of the matter is that from East County, we are sending 15 million gallons a day of wastewater 20 miles to the Pacific Ocean. And today, we have the technology to clean that water to a level where we can reuse it for drinking water. And we have the regulations from the state of California that say we can do it. And we have preconditioned permits from DDW to do that. So all indicators are that this is a viable project, and all indicators are that we can bring the cost per acre foot within reason with imported water in the interim, and we know that price is going to expand in the future. And we know that we can treat this water, we believe that we can treat this water comparable to San Diego Metro. Those are what we know right now, and that's why we feel comfortable making these investments that we're making right now and asking. I will tell you that you have a tough staff. They are good, and we've already started the preliminary term sheet negotiations, and they have your back, and they will get the best priced for El Cajon residents. There's no question in my mind.
Steve.
So the question is, should we spend $500,000 of the money of the people of El Cajon to continue this project?
Right.
And the project really is to say, should we have more local control of our rates and the future of our rates? That's kind of what we're hoping for here. Mm-hmm. On the question of, and this is more for Mr. Mitchell, are there any exit costs to get out of Metro? You said there's some debt service costs. Are there any additional contractual penalties for withdrawing from the system that you're aware of at this moment?
So we would not, if we were to move forward with the advanced water purification, we would not completely disconnect from Metro, because we actually have, as you recall, sewer flows downhill. So we actually have some portions of El Cajon that will need to continue to drain towards the city of San Diego and Metro. So we'll never fully end our relationship with them. They are actually very aware of this project. We believe that the contract, if we were to completely sever our relationship with Metro, there would be some ramifications. But we believe because we would not fully sever, that we would just divert, that we have the legal authority to do that. But that's part of the exploration of what we'll be looking at in the next year as well.
Yeah, I think it would be important to note if there's any decrease in volume that we have commitments to, that doesn't trigger any financial penalties, which essentially add to the cost of the project. So I think that's important to know. I think it's important to know Helix has already voted yes, they're willing to buy the water, should this be successful someday. They're moving forward with 500,000. I think the county is in for 500,000, right?
Correct.
And you're in for $2.5 million.
Correct.
So we're
On this
looking,
phase, yeah.
of the next year, we're looking at $4 million. Really, the point of the next year is to get more data, isn't it?
Get more assurance.
To get more confidence
Absolutely.
in whether this is a program that is viable, economic, win for everybody. So we're just saying at this point, should we continue down this road that looks promising for the residents of El Cajon? Is that kind of where we're at?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Bob?
Since La Mesa and Lemon Grove, I think they're on the Helix system,
Correct.
since they aren't contributing anything to this, will they be paying a higher rate to Helix than what we are because we're the ones that are putting the foot forward? And
Well, they are part of on the water side. So the water, the price for the advanced treated water will be borne by all of the water users in our service area, Padre dams and Helixes, about 400,000 population. That includes portions of La Mesa. So yes, within their bill, they will pay for the increased costs for this advanced treated water.
But would they pay higher rate than what we are because we're kind of the first ones on the block that are putting up the money to make the studies and everything, or are they going to take a free ride on that?
Yeah, that's a question for Helix, and they really wouldn't be taking a free ride because as a resident of the Helix Water District, they are owners of the Helix Water District infrastructure, and the Helix Water infrastructure is a partner. So as a partner of Helix, they are taking the risk of becoming part of this program. There is inherent risk with just being a resident of Helix.
But the cities aren't paying anything like we are.
Correct. They do not have the wastewater flows that you, the county, and Padre have.
I think the city of El Cajon's major benefit is that projected $10 million a year savings 20 years into the future. The other thing that's important to me is the reliability of the water system, because we live in an earthquake area here in California, and there's probably a pretty good chance in the next 20 years there's going to be a substantial earthquake somewhat north of us that could disrupt that 600-mile pipeline, and you have to have water. Everything stops if you don't have water. And I'd rather have my water source 10 miles from here, so if there's an earthquake, it'd be easily patched up, rather than 600 miles from here. So the water reliability, I think, is a very important factor here, and local control. And I think one of the things that the staff should look at is something like what's sometimes called a most favorite nation status, that nobody else gets a better deal than we do. And I understand that Padre has some overhead that has to be calculated into their cost, but I'm sure staff can work that out.
All right, any more questions? Well, I had lots of questions, but they asked them all, so
Okay, great.
thank you very much.
I do want to thank your staff. They have been fantastic to work with. I appreciate all their due diligence and really digging into the numbers and digging into this program to get you a solid recommendation. So they've been fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Angela, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
We have one card, and it's from Bonnie Price.
Very good discussion, and I like the idea of the city getting more control over water that you will reuse. There are some really terrible actions being taken by people around the world buying up local water sources, including T. Boone Pickens. I'm sure you've heard of him. He of oil and natural gas. He bought up land at the Ogallala aquifer, and he now controls the water for the city of Dallas. Talk about money. he's got them by the throat. So the more you can do to control your own water source, the better you are.
Thank you. No more cards.
No more cards.
All right. Council, it's back to you. Any discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion? Steve?
I got a question. So really, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mitchell, what we're talking about here is the wastewater portion. We're not really talking about water supply because Padre Dam wholesales the purified water to Helix, and then we buy our water from Helix. So our conversations on incoming water rates should be with Helix, correct?
That's correct, and that's why the funding for this comes from the wastewater fund.
And as far as our participation, our protection is really against the city of San Diego's future sewer charges to us.
That's
correct?
Exactly, that's correct.
So that's an important distinction. We only really have control over the wastewater portion of this. Helix has control over the incoming water portion of this.
And I think the council knows this, but just to reiterate, we're going to reclaim the water one way or another because the city of San Diego Metro is going to reclaim water. They are under a legal requirement either to clean up the Point Loma plant to a completely different level, which is incredibly expensive, or to get into reclaimed water and have less water go out to the ocean. That's the choice they've already made. That is a decision they have made, and they're in the process of figuring out all the questions that this council asked today that they're asking themselves. How much is this going to cost? How much are we going to charge our ratepayers, including the city of El Cajon and its citizens? And as you saw that graph, but whatever level of uncertainty we still have with Padre Dam's numbers, I will tell you from my perspective, is much greater with the city of San Diego's numbers, which is one of our overall concerns. There are numbers out there. Part of it is that old game, who do you trust? We're going to reclaim water. We are going to pay for that, including all the infrastructure in the immediate future, one way or another. That is not within the city of El Cajon's purview. What is within our purview is which system we're going to go into, and that gets into what's the best deal for our citizens. But the only reason that Padre is having a conversation with us is because we are a sewer agency. It's not because we're the city of El Cajon that has 105,000. Because they're not talking to the city of Santee about anything, because the city of Santee is neither a purveyor of sewer or water. Padre does that both for them. So yes, they're talking to us because we are a sewer agency, not because of our citizens.
Well, I see this as a win-win. I think Bonnie made a really good point in having local control. We have two aspects here. One is the 10 million or so we could possibly be saving in 20 years on the sewer portion. The second is the 30% of the water that could be dropped into the Helix system that could increase our reliability. The worst thing that could happen to us is that someday we turn on the tap and no water comes out because of a broken line going up to 600 miles up into past Los Angeles. So I think this is the way to go. We had that local control, and I think that's really, really important. And cost savings and reliability.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Ben?
Well, I'm going to vote yes on it, but I mean, I want, listening ears to know that in this stage, if it was me in my personal life, I would want to, secure whatever rough numbers that they have, just because I know that they know what their rough numbers are from their proof of concept, and just to get that percentage, and that way we know we can go back to citizens and say this is what we did. And of course, that's a great idea.
Somebody like to make a motion? Bob?
I'd recommend that the City Council adopt the next resolution, authorizing the city manager to enter into a First Amendment of the Memorandum of Understanding with Padre Dam Municipal Water District to participate in and fund $500,000 toward the second term work related to the El Cajon, the East County Advanced Water Purification Program.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Good luck. We will see you in the next phase.